Billionaire Mockery exposed, incredible black maid's touching response transforms everything. Rosa James stood in the lavish ballroom, surrounded by shimmering chandeliers and laughter that filled the air like a sweet perfume, yet it felt like poison to her spirit. The gala was thrown by billionaire Grant Wilson, her employer, and the crowd mingled in designer suits and glittering gowns, sharing tales of riches and privilege. Rosa, at 35, wore her usual simple black uniform, distinct among the jewels and elegance. She took pride in her work, knowing her hands brought warmth to cold relationships, mending broken families with her compassion. But just as the evening glowed bright, shadows loomed large. Grant's callous declaration cut through the merriment like a knife as he slurred, "Oh, don't mind her, just a maid." Laughter grew around him, ringing in her ears as Rosa's heart sank. Each chuckle felt like a shard of glass, piercing through her dignity, leaving her icy with humiliation. Her chest tightened, and she forced a smile, but inside she felt the flames of indignation flicker. As she walked home that night, through the poverty-stricken streets where laughter still echoed from children playing and the savory scent of backyard barbecues filled the humid air, she felt both sadness and grit stirring within her. No one, she thought, should ever forget their worth. Her neighbors greeted her with warm waves, their smiles a balm to the ache in her heart. Drawing strength from their connection, she felt the fire inside her spark to life again. Rosa decided to turn her pain into a force for change. Little by little, she began organizing a community gathering, inviting local families to share their stories of trials and triumph. In every tale, she saw herself reflected, people rising from battles with laughter filling the gaps of their struggles. The event became a testament to resilience and love, echoing the American spirit. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the event sparkled with laughter and tears, Grant Wilson made a sudden appearance, trying to shift focus from his previous hurtful remarks. The crowd went silent, tension simmering like a boiling pot. Rosa felt the weight of hundreds of eyes upon her, embodying a collective strength unlike anything she had felt before. Grant stepped to the microphone, and the air thickened with anticipation. Rosa's heart raced. Here was the moment, a true test of character, not just for him, but for everyone present. Could he transcend the arrogance of privilege and recognize the real worth of a woman he had dismissed? Or would he remain locked inside a gilded cage of his own making? Rosa stood tall, rooted in dignity, ready to meet this confrontation with unyielding strength, igniting hope in an uncertain world. As Grant's mouth opened to speak, she knew their lives would never be the same. Would he embrace this chance, or would he retreat, leaving the shadows to linger a little longer? Grant cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the taut silence. A few inches taller suddenly, he held the microphone with both hands, as if anchoring himself to something solid. Rosa caught a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, a tiny crack in the armor of arrogance. Hey everyone," he began, his confident facade wavering. "I know I might have put my foot in my mouth earlier." The crowd appeared torn, unsure whether to applaud or wait for him to dig deeper. Rosa felt a surge of excitement mixed with skepticism. Was he genuinely trying to make amends, or was this just another attempt to save face in the eyes of the very people he marginalized? Grant continued, "Look, I'm not here to make excuses. I know I come from privilege. It's just a fact. But that doesn't mean I'm blind to the hard work that goes in behind the scenes. I respect all of you." The words hung like heavy beads in the air, and for a moment, it seemed everyone was holding their breath. Rosa's heart raced. Respect? Did he truly understand what that word meant for someone like her, someone who had spent their life fighting against the perception that her worth was defined solely by her role? She wanted to scream, to ask him if he truly cared or if this was just another performance in a perfectly scripted evening among the elite. "And Rosa," he added, glancing in her direction. There it was a flicker of recognition. "I need to apologize to you in front of everyone. I have no right to treat anyone like they're less than human. You helped to hold this community together, and well, I've failed to see that." Gasps rippled through the crowd, the tension in the room thickening. This was unexpected. The words felt raw, unpolished, and Rosa felt a cascade of emotions wash over her: anger, disbelief, a glimmering hope that maybe this was the change she had been aiming for. But before she could process it all, the whispers in the crowd began to rise. Some were supportive, others skeptical. "Is he for real? What a show," floated through the air, mingling with applause. Taking a breath, Rosa stepped forward. Every eye in the room focused on her, every heartbeat echoed like a drummer calling for action. She leaned into the microphone, her voice steady but firm. "Thank you for your words, Grant. But it's not just about words. It's about action. A commitment to valuing not just me, but everyone who fills roles that may not sparkle like crystal chandeliers." A ripple of agreement spread through the audience, arms crossed in defiance against the past, hearts beating with the promise of a stronger future. The warmth from Rosa's neighbors filled her with strength. This was their moment, not just hers. "But I won't let your charity define me," she continued, her resolve strengthening. "I want to see change. Real change. Let us work together and help uplift not just the privileged, but everyone in our community." Rosa's words hung in the air and, for a heartbeat, it felt like they could spark a revolution. She locked eyes with Grant, waiting, almost daring him to respond. His gaze shifted, a storm brewing behind those darkened eyes. The audience leaned forward, breath held in collective anticipation. Would he take the challenge and join her in this new path, or would he simply retreat to the safe haven of his lofty world? As tension crackled like electricity in the room, time seemed to stand still, leaving the question echoing louder than the applause. What would Grant choose? And how would Rosa hold her ground? The silence stretched almost too thin, filled only with the muted sounds of hope and trepidation. Rosa could feel her heartbeat like a drum in her chest, urging her to remain calm, to stand her ground. She held Grant's gaze, refusing to back down. The crowd awaited his response, the murmurs around the room growing louder, a mix of disbelief and encouragement. "Rosa," Grant finally said, the weight of her challenge hanging heavily in the air. "You're right. Words alone won't get us anywhere." His voice trembled slightly, and for the first time, he seemed genuinely vulnerable. "I've been so wrapped up in my own world that I forgot what really matters. After all that's been said tonight, I want to start something real." Hope flickered in Rosa's chest, though she knew better than to let it sweep her away. "What does that mean, Grant?" she asked, her voice strong yet filled with curiosity. "How do we know this isn't just another empty promise?" He nodded, as if he had expected that. "I've met with various community leaders over the past few weeks." He focused on her, determination settling on his features. "I want to create a foundation dedicated to helping those who feel voiceless. Not just financially, but to empower, educate, and give them a platform." Gasps rippled through the crowd again. The air buzzed with uncertainty and possibility. "A foundation?" someone called out, suspicion threading through the words. "Yes," Grant replied, raising his hand slightly, signaling for quiet. "But I can't do this alone. I need you, Rosa, and the entire community to guide me. Your voices deserve to be louder than mine." Rosa felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over her. Could he really mean it? Would he be willing to step aside, to listen? But she also felt the familiar flicker of skepticism, a reminder of all the times trust had been broken before. "And what does that look like?" she pressed, her heart still wary. "Talking is one thing. Real change takes effort. It starts with me stepping back and letting you lead," Grant said earnestly, his sincerity palpable. I want to fund community projects, educational programs and create initiatives that prioritize equality. Applause broke out suddenly, unexpected and almost chaotic. Some were clapping in agreement, while others still wore skeptical frowns. Rosa felt her spirit rise and fall with each wave of sound. The emotions in the room twisted around her, a collective of hope, anger, and doubt all intertwined. As the applause faded, her resolve tightened all over again. Then let us drill down. We need a plan. And not next month or next year. Now. If you want to be taken seriously, show us what you mean. Grant nodded, and she could see the challenges he faced in those dark eyes of his. I'm ready for that, he promised. I'll put together a meeting. First step, we discuss real needs in this community. Rosa felt the momentum shifting, a spark igniting. The murmurs began to rise again, but this time there was a different note to them: curiosity, excitement. Let us get it done. Together, Rosa responded, feeling a surge of energy flow through her. She could see people leaning in, wanting to be a part of something that could change their reality. But right then, the moment fractured when someone at the back shouted, "And what happens when this goes wrong like it always does?" The crowd stilled, the validity of the question silencing even Grant. Rosa's heart dropped. Would this entangle them all in another web of disappointment? Grant stepped forward, his voice steady. If it goes wrong, we'll own it. I'll make sure of that. But if we don't try, we'll never know. Let us work together and make something that matters starting tonight. Rosa held her breath. This was a pivotal moment, not just for Grant, but for her, for everyone. Would they take the leap, plunge into the depths of uncharted waters, or pull back into safe old habits? With the crowd wrapped up in this fragile moment, Rosa couldn't help but wonder what awaits them if they chase this shared ambition. She felt excitement building deep in her gut, mixed with the urgency of a storm brewing on the horizon. It was a turning point, yet they stood on the brink of an uncertain future. Will we dare to be the change? She asked, the room still wrapped in her words, her heart racing. What lay ahead for them all? Would they rise together, or would hesitation keep them from the steps they needed to take? The crowd hung on Rosa's words like a taut string, vibrating with anticipation. A moment so fragile, it felt as if any wrong move could shatter the glimmer of hope they had just caught hold of. Their faces mirrored her emotions, a mix of skepticism and cautious optimism. Together someone murmured from the side, but the doubt laced through that quiet word seemed to clip at the wings of possibility. Rosa turned to see Maria, one of the older residents whose life had been colored by hardship. Maria's brow was furrowed, her voice trembled with years of experience. Can we really trust that this time it will be different? Rosa took a breath, feeling the weight of every gaze upon her. She sensed the urgency, a collective thirst for change that had been stifled for too long. Trust doesn't come easy, she said firmly, locking eyes with Maria. But we've got to start somewhere. This foundation can be our bridge to the change we want to see if we shape it right. Next to Maria, Kyle, a young father with hopeful eyes, stepped forward. And what if it falls apart? What if it's just another venture that gets lost in the bureaucratic maze? He was right to question, she felt that fear crawling up her spine like a chill. But there was also fire beneath it. Then we pick up the pieces, Rosa replied, her voice steady, rising above the low murmurs that started to swell again. We learn from it, improve it. We can't let fear of failure hold us back from trying. I won't let that fear take this from us. Not again. Grant, sensing the wavering energy in the room, raised his hand. His face was intense, emphasizing the moment. I'm asking each of you to bring your voices, your stories, and your skills to the table. This isn't just my foundation, it's ours. If we are going to do this, I want all of you to demand accountability. The room buzzed, and he was right. They could take this moment and twist it around to fit them. This was their chance, and it pulled like gravity. Rosa felt the heat in her veins, sparked by possibility. We need a committee, she declared. We'll gather ideas, lay out what the community truly needs. A safe space to discuss, to challenge each other, and to grow. We can outline projects that matter, ones that will make a real difference. A ripple of excitement flared up. She could see heads nodding, a few tentative smiles breaking through the uncertainty plastered on their faces. Perhaps this was the catalyst they needed. But we also need to find ways to protect ourselves, she added, tightening her own resolve. Every voice must stay heard and valued. Or else we risk it all to be silenced again. We can't afford that. What's our first step? Maria asked, her tone shifting, softened by the spark Rosa had ignited. Let us meet next week, Rosa proposed. We'll get together, brainstorm, and build our mission. Make it real, make it ours. We'll start small and build from there. The crowd seemed to lift, energy swelling as ideas began to bounce among them. Rosa felt her own trepidations lighten, replaced by conviction. This was how change started. Like ripples on a pond, one voice started it all, causing the others to follow. Grant nodded, his eyes brighter. I'll have resources ready. Meeting spaces, whatever we need. The electricity in the air thrummed as the evening drew on, voices rising with renewed purpose. Yet as the meeting adjourned, Rosa's heart raced. She was exhilarated but also terrified. Behind the excitement, a nagging worry clicked at her mind. How would they sustain this? As she stepped out into the crisp night air, doubts whirled around her. Would the foundation hold, or would all their efforts unravel when faced with the harsh realities of life? The uncertainty lingered like thick fog. But she knew now, under the pressure of their resolve, the heartache they carried together could birth something new. Can we really do this? She whispered to herself, glancing back at the gathering still buzzing behind her. And in that moment, as uncertainty wove in and out, it struck her if they held tight to each other, this wasn't just a leap of faith. This was the beginning of their fight. What storm would they face next, and would they all stand united when it came? The following week weighed heavy on Rosa's mind. The anticipation buzzed and crackled in the air, mingling with her self-doubt as she approached the community center. She glanced at the shabby, chipped building that had once hosted the laughter and struggles of countless families. This place could soon cradle their dreams or their disappointments. She arrived early, her heart racing at the thought of what might unfold. As she set up chairs, she envisioned the faces that would occupy them. Each one brought a story with them, Maria and her hard-won wisdom, Kyle's endless enthusiasm, and the quiet strength of those who rarely spoke up but listened intently. They all had a stake in the foundation's success. Slowly, people trickled in, smiles and nods greeting her. There was something electric in this gathering, a sense of shared resolve. Kyle leaned in, grinning. Got the brainstorming juices flowing? He asked, his youthful energy contagious. Rosa laughed lightly, more like trying to keep it all from spilling over. As the gathering began, she stood in front of them with her heart on her sleeve. Thank you all for coming. Tonight isn't just about plans, it's about us as a community. It's about finding our voice together. The responses were spirited. Ideas bubbled to the surface like children's laughter, some silly, some profound. A food pantry. A community garden. Workshops on budgeting. Each suggestion made Rosa's heart swell. They were beginning to shape something real. The raw materials of their hopes were there, and it was so exhilarating to witness. But as the excitement soared, doubts whispered in the back of her mind. What if we don't have the funding? She thought, remembering the grim statistics she had read earlier about failing initiatives. She couldn't let them see her falter. She steeled her resolve, focusing on the faces staring back at her, filled with hope. Let's tackle funding next, Rosa said, forcing her voice to sound more confident than she felt. We need to brainstorm how to reach out to local businesses and potential donors. What can we offer them in return for their support? Just then, the door swung open, and a dapper figure stepped in, drawing the crowd's attention. Grant stood in the doorway, flustered but beaming. "Sorry I'm late. I found some connections in the business community who are interested in hearing about our plans." The room erupted into murmurs. A renewed energy flickered like a flame catching wind. It didn't just feel like a meeting anymore, it felt like a launching pad. Maria leaned toward Rosa, her voice low but firm. "Will this push them to believe in us?" Rosa swallowed hard. "I hope so. But we have to show them we believe in ourselves first." Together, they began piecing the funding pathway together. Each idea sparked a fresh wave of enthusiasm. They envisioned community fundraisers, a local business fair, even partnerships with schools. Spirits were high, and for the first time, their collective laughter echoed through the center. But soon, doubt crept in again, wrapping around her heart like a vice. What if the excitement faded when reality set in? What if they lost momentum when faced with obstacles? As the meeting reached its climax, Rosa took a deep breath, standing tall. "We have to promise one another that if we hit a wall, we don't turn back. We'll find a way around it, through it, or over it. But we'll never give up." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, their eyes shining with determination. They were ready to stand together, to face whatever storm lay ahead. Yet, as Rosa glanced around the room, a piece of paper fell to the floor, unnoticed by everyone. It was a small local newspaper, a headline glaring from its surface: "Billionaire Mockery Exposed, Incredible Black Maid's Touching Response Transforms Everything." Rosa's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean for them? Would inspiration bloom from unexpected sources, or would they find themselves entangled in something far more challenging than they ever imagined? She reached for the paper, feeling the weight of its message. As she tucked it under her arm, a storm began to gather within her. Was this a sign? A call to rise above the expectations, to transform their struggles into something greater? What destiny awaited them now? Would they answer that call, or would they be swept away by the winds of fate? Rosa stood in the stillness of the room, the newspaper crumpling slightly under her grip. The headline felt ominous but alluring, a siren call whispering of hope amidst the struggle. She could sense the rising questions within her community, mixed with the buzz of enthusiasm. They were ready to launch, but were they prepared for the complexities that awaited? "Rosa? You okay?" Kyle's voice broke through her reverie. Concern flickered in his eyes as he noticed her frozen stance. "Yeah, just processing," she replied, forcing a smile. "Let us keep that momentum going. We need to focus on the next steps for the fundraising." But even as she spoke, her thoughts raced. The headline tugged at her. What kind of response could possibly transform something so seemingly broken? Where was the connection to their cause? With a determined breath, she made her way back to the front of the room. "Okay, everyone. Let us talk about what we can do to present our ideas effectively to those potential donors. We need our pitch to be compelling." The group dove into ideas, brainstorming visuals and memorable phrasing. Maria's hands danced as she sketched a rough flyer. "How about we do a showcase of our community's talents? Create a montage of what our support means." Kyle jumped in. "Yes. And each spot could highlight a part of the foundation. Stories of individuals who could benefit, like real impact." Rosa felt her heart warm as their ideas floated through the air. This was what it felt like to build something together. The doubts nestled deeper, but it was easier to fight them fronted by such unity. Yet, the headline still echoed in her head. Can we really transform? Can a response from shadows bring light? Would their community garden bloom into something significant, or would they remain hidden in underworld struggles? As their ideas crystallized, the door swung open again, and an elderly woman stepped in, frail but wise. Annabelle, with her silver hair and wrapped shawl, limped to the front. "My dear," she said, her voice shaking but firm. Everyone turned to her, curiosity mixed with concern. "I overheard your plans. Can I share my story?" Rosa nodded, taken aback but intrigued. Annabelle cleared her throat, and the room shifted, tension easing into focus. "A few decades ago, I came to this community with nothing but a suitcase. I've watched so many good people give up on their dreams because they felt alone. But when we stand together, something extraordinary happens." Eyes widened as she recounted her struggles, her voice steady despite the years. "We began with a small library, a place where families gathered. We couldn't do it alone, but together, we found ways. The struggles reminded us of our purpose, to lift each other." Rosa could feel the room inhale, absorbing Annabelle's words as if they were sunlight warming them. In that moment, doubt felt lighter. "Let us do it," Rosa said, her voice stronger now. "Let us gather stories of our community's past, show the power of resilience. We can intertwine them with our plans." This took form, sparks igniting as conversations flowed again. Memories blended with fresh dreams. Hope surged like wildfire, and laughs filled the community center once more. But just as they began to align their energies, Grant's phone buzzed loudly on the table. Annabelle paused, eyeing the device as if it were a foreign object. Grant bent low to check the screen, his face shifting swiftly to concern. Guys, the article has been picked up," he muttered. "It's trending." The room stilled, questions hanging thick in the air. Would this newfound attention bring help or heartache? Could they hold on to the excitement, or would it slip through their fingers, like sand on an endless shore? Once again, the wind blew cold, remixing their hopes with uncertainty. How would this buzz shape their story? Rosa clenched the crumpled paper in her hand. They were on the brink of something profound. But was it truly their time to shine, or just another fleeting moment in a parade of good intentions? Next week would reveal all if they dared to keep listening to the stories that wrapped around them. To transform the whispers into unshakable belief, into something tangible. Would they rise to that challenge, or sink back to silence? The buzz filled the room like static, an electrifying blend of excitement and anxiety. Rosa felt her heart race as Grant's words hung in the air. "It's trending." The phrase wrapped around her throat, reminding her of the weight of expectation looming over them. What does this even mean for us? Kyle broke the silence, his brows furrowing. Are we ready for attention like this? What if it backfires? His concern was palpable, echoing Rosa's growing unease. Amidst the hope and dreams surfacing from Annabelle's story, the shadows of doubt crept back in. Rosa took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the crumpled newspaper in her hand. We can't control how people react. But we can show them who we are. Let us focus on why we started this journey. Her voice wavered slightly as she felt the collective gaze upon her. Annabelle stepped forward again, an anchor in the storm. When things get tough, remember to stand firm, even if the world outside shakes. Her words were like a bomb, grounding the group. That's what community means. We're in this together. They can't define our story. Maria nodded, her eyes widening at the grounded perspective. Exactly. We need to tell our story, show the impact we want to make. Let us utilize this trend. If they want to listen, we need to give them something worth hearing. With renewed energy, the group began to riff off each other's ideas. They envisioned a blending of past and present, stories stitched together like a vibrant quilt. Each voice in the room was a patch, unique in telling their own tale. Laughter returned as they shared personal anecdotes, poignant and silly, capturing the essence of their struggles into something relatable. But beneath Rosa's smile, the unease simmered. What if they were not enough? What if their heartfelt efforts met a wall of skepticism instead of support? Hours slid by. Ideas bounced back and forth, images painted in their minds. Each heartbeat synced with the rhythm of their determination. Yet, the reality of the outside world still hovered, a looming specter of the budding interest that could fade as quickly as it came. Suddenly, the door swung open. The group turned to see a reporter standing there, clipboard in hand. "Excuse me, I'm here to get more details about the transformation project you posted about online." Rosa's heart raced. Was this what they had wanted? She watched as the reporter scanned the room, taking in the eagerness and warmth that spilled forth from their collective vision. Kyle exchanged glances with Grant, tension palpable. We were just brainstorming," Kyle said, trying to sound casual. "But we'd love to share what we're about." The reporter's eyes brightened, capturing the flicker of their shared camaraderie. "Perfect. Stories sell. I want to hear about this community garden and how you're planning to bring everyone together." Rosa's heartbeat quickened, realizing they had been thrust into the spotlight without any warning. The pressure mounted, but a surge of adrenaline swept through her. They had the stories. They had the passion. "Okay, everyone," Rosa said, excitement breaking into her earlier anxiety. "Let us share what we've got. Let us show them who we really are." As they began to speak, weaving their anecdotes, hopes, and plans into an inspiring tapestry, the air felt lighter. Laughter erupted at one of Grant's offbeat remarks, and the reporter was visibly captivated. It felt good to let loose, and the camaraderie grew stronger with each shared story. But just as the reporter started jotting down notes, a new phone buzzed, this time from Grant again. His face paled as he read the text. "Guys, it's about the article. It's gone viral. There are people outside." Rosa's heart sank. A crowd? Pressures from outside? Would they be ready to face whatever came next? Would they still shine, or would this sudden attention bring light to their cracks instead? The room buzzed with anxious murmurs, fear and excitement intertwining. In that moment, Rosa realized they were indeed at a crossroads. The comfort of community stood strong against the backdrop of uncertainty. Could they keep their focus amidst the chaos that was coming? Would their stories rise above the noise, or crumble under scrutiny? A silence settled in, thick with anticipation as they faced the open door and uncertain future. The moment had arrived. Would they embrace it or shy away? Rosa's heart pounded against her chest, a drum echoing in the stillness that followed Grant's news. "People outside?" she echoed, trying to steady her breath. The excitement that had been a buoy for their gathering now felt like a heavy anchor, dragging her down. "They're here because of the article. It went viral," and Grant's voice trailed off. The weight of his words hung, thick and unyielding in the charged room. Maria's eyes darted toward the window, a flicker of panic flashing across her face. "What do we do? What if they're here to criticize? What if they don't understand our message?" Each word pressed deeper into the blend of apprehension that filled the air. "Wait," Annabelle interjected, her calm presence cutting through the rising tension. "This is a chance, right? People want to hear our story. We've worked too hard to let fear stop us now." Rosa swallowed, feeling the support of her friends washing over her. "It's not about how many people are out there. We have our community, and that's what matters. Let us show the world who we are, why we started this." There was a flicker of determination in her voice, a kindling in the deepening dark. Just then, the sound of murmurs and footsteps grew louder outside. The reporter stepped toward the door, clearly intrigued by the commotion. "Shall we see what they want?" Rosa exchanged glances with Kyle, who had taken a deep breath and seemed to channel every ounce of courage he could muster. "Let us do it. We can't hide. This is what we wanted." Together, they moved toward the door. As it swung open, the wave of faces outside met them like a flood. Some held smartphones, others wore expressions of curiosity mixed with skepticism. A few eager faces glimmered with hope. It was a mix of intrigue and uncertainty, kind of like what Rosa felt inside. Rosa stepped forward, pulling her shoulders back. The energy in the room had shifted from uncertainty to purpose, a tidal wave of hope. "Hi, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We want to share what we're doing in the community and how we're trying to bring people together through our garden project. A young man in the front raised his hand. But what makes your project different? There are 1,000 community gardens out there. Rosa felt the challenge, her heart racing anew. That's a fair question. Our garden isn't just about planting seeds in the ground. It's about planting stories in our lives, how each person's experience matters. Every struggle we've faced has led us to this moment. In the crowd, she noticed nods, some faces softening. That gave her the push she needed. This garden is a space for everyone where diverse stories come together. We all have something to share, something to learn from each other. Grant joined in, his voice strong. Our mission goes beyond just growing food. We're focusing on healing, creating a sense of belonging. It's about unifying our community in a way that uplifts everyone. The crowd began to listen, pulled by the passion in their voices. The initial skepticism began to shift as Kyle shared moments from their journey, highlighting the laughter and tears that had stitched them together. Minutes turned into an hour, and with each story, Rosa felt their collective courage rising. They were creating a moment, one filled with hope and shared purpose. But as they spoke, a sudden shout rang out. Look! There's something trending online. Rosa's heart sank as the group turned to the nearest device. On the screen appeared a headline flashing ominously. Billionaire Mockery exposed, incredible black maid's touching response transforms everything. Gasps echoed, eyes widened. Fear gripped Rosa's heart again. Did they just open themselves up to more criticism? What did this mean for them? And as the screen buzzed louder with intense commentary, a new sensation stitched itself into the atmosphere, a sense of urgency blurring lines of fear and hope. What challenges lay ahead now? Would they navigate through this new storm together, or would it shatter their fragile dream? Rosa's mind raced as she took a deep breath, readying herself. The story wasn't just theirs to tell anymore. Now, it was gaining momentum, and she could feel the pulse of something bigger. In that moment, she wondered what would this new reality create for them all. The crowd buzzed with excitement and confusion. Eyes darted between the screen and each other, uncertainty mixing with curiosity. Rosa felt the tension wrapping around her like a thick fog. She knew they couldn't simply back down now. There was too much at stake. Someone in the back shouted, "What does this mean for us? Are they going to tear us apart?" The worry rippled through the audience, igniting a murmur of concern. Rosa stepped up again, trying to calm the convulsing fear. "Guys, let's not jump to conclusions. We don't actually know what this is yet." She felt a surge of energy rise as she scanned the faces in front of her, searching for reassurance. People are talking about us, but we need to make sure they understand what we stand for. Kyle grabbed Rosa's wrist, his grip tight. But what if they don't? What if this article distracts from our message? His voice rose, laced with anxiety. Then we make our message loud enough to drown them out. She declared, her own heart racing. We can't let other people's narratives shape our story. We can show them who we really are. Annabelle nodded, stepping beside Rosa. Together, we're stronger. They need to see that the garden is a safe haven. This is our moment to remind everyone why we started this project. But as the comments streamed across the screen, Rosa felt the weight of the world pressing in. They were thrust into an arena larger than they ever expected. All the skepticism, all the doubts, this was just the beginning. "Okay, let us gather ourselves," Grant suggested, his voice soothing yet firm. "Why don't we share our own thoughts on the article? People are here to listen to us, and we can guide the narrative." Rosa looked at her friends, their faces reflecting a mix of determination and fear. It was a delicate balance, and she could feel the stakes rising. Let us pull together our personal stories. What this garden means to each of us, what we've overcome. They won't be able to ignore us. With a nod, Maria grabbed her notebook, flipping through its pages. I've written down some of my experiences growing up in the neighborhood. I can share how this garden is more than just soil and seeds for me. Rosa did her best to mask the panic that crept through her veins. The truth was, she had her own fears about who they would face in the coming days. What if the article led to unexpected backlash? They had always aimed for acceptance, but acceptance came with scrutiny. Minutes ticked by, and they revised their lines, honing in on what they needed to convey. They would show the truth of their mission, a community garden, but more importantly, a space for healing, connection, and growth. "All right, we're ready," Kyle said, reclaiming his position at the forefront. The mood had shifted, and the fire in his eyes ignited a spark in Rosa's heart. As they began to share heartfelt experiences fueled by both despair and triumph, Rosa realized that every tear shed and every laugh shared in that garden was a part of a larger testament. The crowd leaned in, some recording snippets for social media, others murmuring affirmations. But just as hope filled the air, another shout pierced through their rhythm. "Look! The backlash is already starting." Rosa's heart seized again. It seemed that just as they found their voice, the world was watching, waiting to tear it down. She turned back to the screen. Words filled the space like knives. Disgraceful, hypocritical, another cynical attempt at sympathy. The comments flooded in, and she could feel her breath quickening. Rosa knew their journey was taking a much darker turn. Did they truly have the strength to fight this? Or would the world's perception of them crack their fragile unity? Just then, a flicker of resolve ignited deep within her. It didn't matter what anyone else thought. They had to push forward. They had to take control before it was too late. As she looked around at her friends, each face driven by purpose, Rosa whispered to herself, "No matter what happens next, we'll rise together." And with that, the stakes raised higher, the echo of her determination leading them into the unknown. What would be the next move in this battle, a defining moment that would either bind them together or pull them apart? Rosa could feel the fire igniting within her. With each word shared and every fear expressed, a powerful wave of unity surged through the room. "We won't let them take our stories," she declared, her voice ringing loud and clear. Everyone nodded, eyes burning with determination as they rallied around her. "Let us turn this moment into a movement," Kyle shouted, his excitement infectious. They were at a crossroads, but this was their chance to redefine what that article meant and how their story could be shaped. Rosa glanced at Grant, who seemed increasingly engaged, his previous hesitation melting away. "What's our plan? How do we show them that we're more than they claim?" "Let us host an event," he replied, determination etched on his face. "A community gathering to showcase our mission. We'll bring in local artists, musicians, chefs, share what we want to build together. It has to be a celebration of who we are and what we represent." Maria's eyes sparkled. "Yes. Let us show them the heart of our community. Let us fill our garden with vibrant life and stories that can't be ignored." Rosa felt her heart swell. They were channeling their strength, their humor, and their stories into a powerful narrative, ready to combat negativity with love. Every moment unfolded like a tapestry. Someone would share an idea, another would offer a connecting story that wove it all together. Annabelle spoke up passionately, "This community garden isn't just dirt and seed, it's hope. It's where children will play, families will gather, and dreams will grow. Let us share that love," Rosa added, feeling pressure shift from anxiety to action. "Let us invite those skeptics to be a part of our journey instead of turning them away." Hours passed as plans took shape. They designed flyers, created a social media strategy, and formed committees to bring everything to life. Laughter bubbled alongside plans, unraveling the heaviness that had threatened to suffocate their spirits. Days later, the community gathering arrived, and a beautiful contrast of nerves and excitement filled the air. The garden was alive with color. Fresh blooms lined the paths, tables were set with local delicacies, and beautiful chords from musicians echoed joyfully. People from all walks of life began to arrive. Rosa stood at the entrance, her heart pounding with anticipation. Friends, neighbors, and even some curious faces from the viral article crowd glimmered in the sunlight. The energy shifted, this place began to feel electric. And then, Grant stepped up to the microphone, a nervous sincerity radiating from him. Today isn't just about me or the foundation. It's about each of you. Every story shared today matters. Here, we're going to listen together. With that, the gathering came alive. Musicians played, families shared food and laughter, and stories flowed freely. Rosa watched as hesitant faces morphed into vibrant smiles, anxiety transformed into joy. The sound of shared experience filled the air, unraveling the negativity, stringing people together across lines of skepticism. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden light over the garden, people began to take the mic. Each speaker stood tall and brave, sharing their stories, the struggles, the connections, the hopes that had grown alongside this community. Rosa stepped up, feeling the warmth of her friends behind her. In that moment, she faced the crowd, her heart wide open. This is our story, built on strength, resilience, and unity. She felt emotion swell in the room, a collective heartbeat that pulsed with possibility. We are not defined by others' words. We're changing the narrative right now together. Applause erupted, lifting her spirit. The unity they had forged felt unbreakable. And as they continued to share their experiences, Rosa could feel the shift happening not just in her own heart, but in the hearts around her. As the evening came to an end, Rosa felt tears of joy prick at her eyes. They weren't just fighting against old perceptions, they were creating something beautiful, a legacy that could unite them all moving forward. A week later, the article appeared again, but this time the headlines told a different story. Community comes alive, a black maid leads transformation and unity, it read. The shift in tone felt like a breath of fresh air, as if the world was finally starting to see who they truly were. Rosa smiled, knowing this was only the beginning. They had weathered the storm, faced doubt, and emerged stronger. Together, they would build on this momentum, taking each step forward united in purpose and love. So here they stood on that bright horizon, armed with hope, laughter, and resilience, a community finally rising to claim its voice. Now more than ever, it's your turn to seize the moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these messages far and wide. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this beautiful ending. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation glowing with hope and unity. Don't wait not even one more second, let's inspire the world together.